Jump scare! Hi everybody, it's me, D'Angelo again. Today, I'm doing something very special and near dear to my heart. The Resident Evil franchise. I know I am very unique, but this franchise is very, very special to me because I ain't not a big survival horror person, and yet the RE franchise is one of my favorites next to the Alien franchise. But the Alien franchise is more to me than a movie franchise and Alien Isolation. But this one is near dear to my heart. And now people will say, D'Angelo, which one you want me to start first? Well, technically, any of them, because they're self-contained stories. Like, you don't need to play Resident Evil 1. You don't to understand the whole shebang. You could start with Resident Evil 2. And then you'll be fine. Or you could start with not really Resident Evil 3 because it takes place during Resident Evil 2. So I think those two need to play hand in hand. But what is Resident Evil? Well, for starters, it's a homage to American action movies. Yes, I know. I know Japan. They made the whole thing of mocking action movies and sort of horror because it's survival horror, but it has some action movie moments to it. You can see why when you play Resident Evil 4, which that is the first game I started, and then Resident Evil 6 and Resident Evil 5. Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6. Yeah, I know, a very controversial trilogy because they put more to action than to survival horror. But I'll get that to you. I'm more of an liking to the action gameplay than the survival horror gameplay. I never played the first three Resident Evils. I thought they're clunky. The top down perspective is good for the horror, but yet it feels outdated. The voice acting is horrible, like completely horrible. Not even funny. Well, sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's funny. To me, it's funny. But the rest of the whole thing is very, very, very... Sorry about this. I just put Resident Evil 5 there as a backdrop, but it continues going to the cutscene of they started the virus in Africa, which it did, technically, out of spite. But let me talk. Why do I love Resident Evil? Well, for starters, it's very random. Resident Evil 2, phenomenal. Resident Evil 3, it's okay. Resident Evil 4, phenomenal. Resident Evil 5, fantastic. Resident Evil 6, a lot of fun, and yet that's the most controversial one, but I think that one's a lot of fun. Resident Evil 7 is good, very, very slow, but only could be played once, in my opinion. Resident Evil 8 is phenomenal, because they removed some of the survival horror and made it more of an action first-person shooter, which I think it fits very well. And then there's Resident Evil 9, which I haven't played yet because I'm not justifying the $80 price tag, even though the other Resident Evils are like 40, 50, or 60 bucks. Now for starters, let me start for you for the beginning from the very first Resident Evil game that I played, which is Resident Evil 4. You play as a guy named Leon S. Kennedy going into a Spanish village, finding the president's daughter, And meanwhile, there is a plague called Las Plagas, which is a virus that is deep in the mines, corrupting almost everyone. And then a pharmaceutical company called the Umbrella Corporation wanted a piece of the pie. Yeah, a pharmaceutical company of all things. Truly devious. That's basically what Resident Evil is. It's basically a pharmaceutical company is infecting everyone with opioids. Yeah. But instead, this one is more like zombies, werewolves for some reason, vampires for some reason, an African plague also for some reason, and then a Spanish plague. One is an and then a virus is in Alcatraz Island. One is in a mansion. Others, etc., etc., etc. It's different viruses. It's not just one single virus, which I do not get, because it's the T virus, the T Veronica virus, Ouroboros, Las Plagas, the mold. I think that's all the viruses that I know at the top of my head. But they don't stick to one virus. That's the whole point. They don't stuck with one virus. And they said that's the virus of the whole series. No, it's multiple different viruses. Umbrella doesn't quit. And yet the main person of Umbrella freaking dies, and yet Umbrella is still lurking in the shadows, like freaking Akihiko Kayaba from SAO. Yeah, that mischievous. They're about to commit a devious lick. Excuse me for a moment. Get up. Sorry about that. Sorry about that interruption. Now let me continue. But the whole thing just confuses me. I love the franchise, but it confuses me. Because the virus makes people superhuman, technically, which is the main person, Albert Wesker, which technically isn't human. He just really, really likes to mess with humanity. Really likes to mess with humanity. I don't know why. Maybe he just didn't have enough cuddles as a kid. But other than that, that's not the only two characters, because there's like other characters. Just Jill Valentine from the first game, Chris Redfield, Clint Barton. Those three are part of the Raccoon City Police Department, known as the STARS program. Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield from the second game. What else? Ada Wong, the person that wants to sell the virus to other people for a higher bidder. Ethan Winters, the main protagonist from 7 and 8. Grace Ashcroft and Resident Evil Requiem. They didn't stick to one person. It's multiple different protagonists in different games. Like Resident Evil 5 stars Chris Redfield. Resident Evil 4 stars Leon Kennedy. Resident Evil 6 is different protagonists. 4 different protagonists, to be exact. Leon, Chris, Sherry from the second game, where Claire rescues her from the second game, and Ada. That one you could skip, because that one is more of an action type game that you could play co-op for funsies. people don't like the story of 6. I like the story from 6, but it's not a well-loved story. In my personal opinion, Resident Evil 4 has the Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 2 remake. Resident Evil 4 remake and Resident Evil 2 remake and 5 and 8 have the best stories. 7 has a really good story, but it's a slog to go through. The game, to me, is clunky, but the clunkiness is on purpose because Ethan never shot a gun. I like that. But I'm not a very horror type person. I don't like getting freaked out over heebie-jeebies and all of that jazz. I don't like getting freaked. I don't like getting spooked. I don't like jump scares in the corner and I just scream up, like that kind of thing. I don't like it. Not one bit. Resident Evil has that, but I could fight back. I don't like horror games where you cannot fight back, like freaking Outlast. Yeah, I don't like Outlast. Outlast makes me shit my pants. That's how scary that game is. I never played the sequel, and I never even played a multiplayer game. Because why would I? I don't want to be scared again. Look, I love horror games with a purpose of it. Because there are horror games to me for the sake of horror. Outlast to me is horror for the sake of horror. Resident Evil is horror, but for a reason. Because it's just a virus. A virus that cannot be contained. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That seems fair. But Outlast, you're in a freaking psychiatry hospital as a journalist. Why is the journalist there? Why does he need to take pictures? There's better people to take pictures with. There's better feet pics out there. But why a psychiatry hospital? I never completed the game. I don't know the reason. All I know is that I played the first hour of the game, and it just some random dude just picks me up and just throws me out of the window, and it's like, yeah, I think that's a good enough time to end the game and never pick it up. But for Resident Evil, I don't know. There's just a certain oomph that it has on my opinion. It's just one of my favorite franchises. If you guys want a Resident Evil game, and if you wanted to play it with people, 5 and 6 are good. They're fun. They're straight up fun. 5 has a really good story. 6 has a really good story, but they're fun co-op. If you want something single player and something horror focused, get Resident Evil 2 Remake. And if you want something action and horror, get Resident Evil 4 Remake. Like I said, get the remakes. Do not get the original games. And there's some diehard people who say, why not play the original game? What? No. Why do I need to suffer a slog of tank controls? That's what the original games are. They're tank controls. How am I supposed to play it on keyboard? And how am I supposed to play it on controller? Games like that are not meant for today's hardware. Look, it has its charm, but why do I need to suffer through a game with tank controls that's hard to control? It's very hard to control. I'm sorry. Now, are the stories good in the first 3 games? Absolutely, because those game stories are in the remakes. They remake the game for today and kept the story the same. And then people said, "Oh, the remakes do have the charm of the original." They still do. They kept the charm of the original games. and yet they make everything better. Like the make it third person shooting instead of top down, and everything like that. They made it better, and yet there are diehards that said we should boycott Capcom because they ruined the games. Touch grass. That's what I'm gonna say. Touch grass. Sometimes people like being miserable, and they just want other people to be miserable. Let me have fun, damn it. Let me have fun. Like, again, there are some diehards that saying that the Survivor trilogy of Tomb Raider ruins Lara Croft. I think it made Lara Croft better. Yeah, I know. Sue me in the comments. Dox me. Whatever. But sometimes change is good. Yeah, I said it. Change is good. Change has always been good. I'm not saying that people will has to like the remix. They don't have to like it. It's not meant for everyone. There's no such thing as a game meant for everyone. It's not meant for everyone. Like, I love the Kingdom Hearts franchise, and there's some people that just don't like it because it's too convoluted and complex. I get it. It's not meant for everyone. I'm not a people pleaser. But I don't know. I really do not know. Now, forgive me for my rambling and everything like that. This is scripted, sort of, except for the dogs. I apologize for that, but I'm trying to do more scripted material, and I hope it does well. And if not, I'll go back to my non-scripted ways. But let me know in the comments of how my script is. But for now, I was saying, I think people should play the Resident Evil franchise. This franchise does have love, but it kind of needs a little bit more. I say play the remakes. Play Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4 remake. Resident Evil 3 remake is good, but it's rushed, so I don't recommend it as much. But 2 and 3 remake, absolutely, you should play it. I love those two. I love those two Resident Evil games. But I say, play it. Play one of them, at least. And see if you like it. If you don't like it, then it's not for you. That's fine. Nobody's forcing you to like something. But all said and done, 9 out of 10 franchise. I love this franchise with all my heart and soul. I say give it a try. If there's people out there that don't like the survival horror, don't play it. You don't have to like it. And if people that like survival horror, try it. And there is gooners out there. I mean, I say there's some stuff to goon to. I don't know. I mean, I could show you. I could show you pictures of Ada and Claire if you want, and Jill if you want me to. I'm not going to, because I'm afraid. But either or, 9 out of 10 franchise. A slam dunk for Capcom. Capcom makes bangers. They made the Mega Man franchise, which is absolutely amazing. What else did they make? They made the Street Fighter franchise, which I loved. I mean, I do have a Chun-Li figure up there on my out there on my shelf. She's one of my favorite characters. But what else did they make? Oh, they made the Dead Rising series. Now that one is an underrated series. I only played 2 and 3. I never played the first one or the fourth one. I heard people say the fourth one was bad, but it looks kind of fun. I might try it out one of these days, but I am a person that gives games that actually look fun a chance. I don't follow games by a controversy, because why would I follow a controversy? So, if this game is bad according to IGN, then it's bad. What happened to having your own opinion of games? To me, that doesn't make any sense. I have personal opinions of games, and I love And I have games that I love that people don't. Like Sonic Unleashed is one of my favorite Sonic games, and yet there are people that think, it's not that great due to the Werehog stages. And immediately classified it as a bad Sonic game. I mean, people have their opinions about it, sure, but you don't really have to immediately make it a bad game because of the Werehog stages. But although all said and done, Resident Evil is near and dear to my heart. And if anybody else wants me to review something else, let me know in the comments. Now, all I need to say is, salute, nerds.